10:05. We are the whole purpose of the business planning clinic, which I'm going to pick out new names for it to make it more enticing, is basically to help educate you on how to grow your business, help you set goals and put plans into action, as well as keeping an eye on your budget, because you can't run a successful business without having a budget in mind, right? Because we have a tendency to overspend and not make enough money to compensate for that. So that is the whole point of the classes. We bounce back and forth between the MREA book as well as the Shift book. Both of these books were, I don't want to say they're written by Gary Keller, but he also has other agents that help him with it. And one thing that I've noticed about both of his books is that they interview a lot of successful agents who run teams, or there's independent agents, however they decide to operate their business, to really get the insight, get a full big picture from all markets all over the United States, so that we can be better prepared for ourselves versus having to be in the trenches and dig in the dirt and make mistakes. It's ironed out before us. So this particular section in the MREA book, starting on page 107, is basically talking about setting goals and then implementing the different models. So I really want to spend a good chunk of time talking about goals. The reason why I want to spend enough time on this is because we talk about goals on a regular basis, and we know that we want to think big and make sure that we're fully focused in on what we're doing. But one of the things that we run into is making sure that we're being realistic with our goals and then executing the plan to reach those goals. Your big why needs to always be big. And the reason why is because if you set your goals too low, then how are you really determining what you're capable of reaching? So your big why you got into real estate, why you want to be successful, why you want to make the money you want to make, is your big motivator. That's always going to be the bright sun in the sky that you're always trying to get to. But when it comes to breaking down your business into smaller increments, because you're not going to hit your big why this week, next month, even in the next year or two, your big why should be years away. So you want to sit there and scale it down so that your ultimate goal is to get to your big why, but you have your little time parameters to get there. So before we start breaking it down, I want to hear everybody's big why. What is your big financial goal that you want to do with your life? What are you hoping that real estate's going to bring you? And what are you working towards? Like where do you see yourself in 10 years? Who wants
For
to
me,
go first?
hi, Holly.
Hi.
For me, my big why is financial security, first of all, and obviously generational wealth, so that my children can literally do what they want to do. They don't necessarily have to choose college just because it's the cool thing to do. If they want to start a business, if they want to, go into a trade, whatever they want to do, I will be financially able to, provide that lifestyle for them.
Mm-hmm.
And also showing them, what it looks like outside of just, okay, go to college, work for somebody, that whole thing that we usually push just because it's the thing to say or the thing to do. So that's my big why.
So when you say financial security, what does that look like for you right now? And I say right now because that's always going to forever be changing. But for right now, what does that look like for you?
So current status, doubling my current salary that I make on my full-time job initially, just because I feel like when you're an entrepreneur or working off of just commissions, you need that cushion.
Yeah.
Because, the check is not guaranteed to hit the bank biweekly, so for me, in order for my mentality to shift and be able to go full-time entrepreneurship, like I have to have that there.
And if I have to see that. What number is that? What is double your salary?
I would say at least $125,000 a year.
Okay.
That would be comfortable.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, like you brought up, one of the biggest things is knowing in real estate that your commissions, you're working commission. So your paycheck is not guaranteed, like punching a clock 40 hours a week. So to make you feel more secure and comfortable, because working full time, you can't put full time into real estate, right? Like you can get close, but you have children, you are very active in your church and your community, so you're stretched thin. And so where is the threshold? Where's that magic number that will allow you to start to hit real estate more full time than your current job? Like, does it have to be the 125, or can you feel like you're on the way there and then kick real estate into overdrive?
Yeah, I could be halfway through the 125 and feel like I could kick it in full time. Because I just also, got a mortgage, so it's a little more serious. It's like, all right, you got a mortgage.
The panic sets in when you buy a house. You're just like, oh my God, I got it, but I don't want to lose it.
Yeah. So I think half of that, but for me, I think I could still, even though I work and I'm doing all these things, I think that my time management can still be better.
Oh, you and me both.
As far as prospecting, just literally blocking out the time. It's about being intentional about the time, that I do spend at least touching something dealing with real estate every week or every day. I think that will ensure that, I can reach that goal.
I think the biggest thing when it comes to time blocking is recognizing where you're losing time. Like I am just as guilty of it as the next person. I could sit there and say that I need a time block. I could sit there and say, oh, I don't have enough hours in the day, because like it's easy for our days to get away from us. It's easy to sit there and get distracted by things that we think are 911 because they're right there in our face at the time, but they may not necessarily be 911. And then we also, have those leisure times. I know I haven't opened up TikTok in a minute, but TikTok could easily absorb 2 hours. And I didn't even realize, like, I don't know why I find these people so entertaining, but 2 hours later, I'm like, sheesh, what am I doing? This isn't making me money. So I agree. Time blocking is always going to be a huge thing for all agents. And some people are natural at it, and some of us need work. And I am the latter. I need the work. So that's awesome. So 125 a year. If you get about halfway there, you feel more comfortable with letting your full-time go so that you can be full-time agent, which is just going to skyrocket your business at that point as well. Yeah. And so 125, that's your big goal for financial independence as of right now. Now, when you talk about generational wealth, what does that mean for you and for your kids? Like specifically, like numbers, what are you hoping to set up for them? Is it rental income?
I would say investment property. So not necessarily, I don't have necessarily a number for that, but just like investment properties, like maybe buying them. My goal was to purchase them land before they graduate high school, like just a piece of land that they own, that's theirs, right? So they can do what they want with it. Either you build on it, you just hold on to it or whatever. But just teaching them the power of owning, or, just ownership, period. And I didn't see that. So I want to show them what that looks like. So even if there was like a rental property that I put in both of their names, and then, eventually the income will go to them, because obviously I don't need, that. So it could go into a savings account for them, whatever the profit is off of that, that property. But that's the goal. Of just getting the ball rolling on that type of mind frame, as far as being the lender and not the borrower.
No, I definitely get it. And I'm in the same boat. I've got kids too. And these are things that I constantly think about for them as well. As of right now, neither one of my kids have a desire to be in real estate. but I still want them to get their real estate license, because if they ever come across somebody, they can put their license in referral, right? We're talking like $60 every 2 years to keep their license active. And if they ever come across somebody who wants to buy or sell, all they have to do is refer it out. Like ideally, that's business towards me, and I have no problem paying a referral fee towards my children, but like it could be business in a different state that I'm not licensed in. So it's an opportunity
Yeah.
for them, just giving out a name and a number. And to me, that it's like a no-brainer. Like even if you only get one deal once a year, that pays for itself several times over. So I definitely see that. And I know that they don't technically want to sell real estate right now, but they are going to get in that age bracket where the friends and family around them are buying houses. So at that time, they got to start talking.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next? Chrissy or Lawrence? Don't talk so quickly.
Oh, I was waiting for him, but that's all right.
I'll go.
All right, go ahead, Lawrence. Let's hear it. What's your big goal?
Okay, so I talked to Chrissy about this before, but my goal is to in real estate to make somewhere at least like $200,000. That will put me in a position where my wife won't necessarily have to work.
Mhm.
So that's my number one goal.
200,000 a year.
200,000, at least 200,000 a year. That, like I said, that way she doesn't have to work. She can work if she wants to.
Mhm.
And honestly, that will, I guess, cause her, I guess, stress level to lower,
Yeah.
which is important to me. And then the other thing is, kind of like some along the lines what Shelley said, setting up something for my kids, even though my kids are all adults now, we're setting up something for them so that way they can, kind of relax a little bit in life instead of being stressed out. I got to work, got to do this, got to do that. But being able to say, okay, I don't want to do that right now. I want to take a few weeks off or whatever. And then also for myself to be able to travel, because that's something that I'm interested in, something that I feel I need to do, as I get into my upper 20s.
Yeah. And with your children being adults, what kind of generational wealth are you trying to give them? Are you thinking the same, like helping them out with residual income, or are you wanting to share the knowledge and potentially get them into real estate?
I'll probably have something set up like like rental properties, or like they live kind of all across the United States. So I have a son in New York, one in Rhode Island, one in Atlanta, one in Florida, one in Tennessee. So just getting something set up to them, like a rental property, like a multifamily rental property, so that way they always have income coming in, and something that they don't necessarily have to worry about on a day-to-day, but something that they can say, okay, this is what's running. And if they hire somebody to kind of run it for them, that they can be in a position to do that as well.
That's awesome. Now, like if they have any friends or family around where they live, you can locate an agent near them and get a referral fee off of that. So that's more money for you as well, just so you know, with them being all over the place.
Yes, I've reached out to them personally and also through Facebook, telling them that if you know anybody who is looking to buy or sell a house, that make sure you reach out to me.
Yeah.
So hopefully something that'll cash in here shortly.
It will. Like you just got to stay on it. You find a way to work real estate into every conversation, and it will start pouring in.
Yeah, the main thing with me right now is, I guess, trying to find the time, to, dedicate myself to it, because I know it takes time to make connections, takes time to build up your clients, but honestly, it's a little bit difficult because I'm new to the area. I've just been here since July. So as far as like my connections within the Virginia area, they're kind of slim. But I mean, it's gonna take some time.
Yeah, and I definitely understand how you feel with being new to the area, but I will tell you about an agent. She's in our office. Her name is Samantha. She's not on the call today. But when she got into real estate, she has not been in the area that long. But what she did, because she was bartending at the time, is she talked about real estate on a regular basis and made relationships with her regulars and just became very involved in the community, and that really shot her networking up quite a bit. So she was able to really build up her sphere of influence just by talking to people on a regular basis. So it can definitely be done, and I don't want you to be intimidated by being new here as a way to not make those connections, because it is possible, and I know that you can do it because you've got a very strong personality that's very inviting and warm, and I'm sure everybody would love to talk to you. You just got to know that. Just know that they want to talk to you.
Okay, I got you.
All right, it is your turn, Miss Chrissy.
Hello. Well, we all know I have very ambitious goals because I'm psychotic, but so I actually want to get to the point where I'm working because I can, not because I have to.
And what
I've
does that
also
look
been-
like for you financially?
Financially, that looks like probably an income of between residuals from rental incomes or whatever else is probably about 25,000 a month,
Okay.
because that's comfortable. Like I
Yeah.
can do what I want at that point.
Yeah, 25,000 a month, and that's gonna be 12 months in a year, so 300,000 yearly in residual income, guys. Residual income.
I got goals though. I've already got stuff moving. So I mean, but that's everyone's goal, is that generational wealth, that being able
Right.
to buy those, quadplexes and multifamilies. That way your child can live in one and, be able to live a mostly rent-free life and not have the same struggle that we had, where they can have the opportunity to do what they want with their life instead of just having that job where you're just over broke because you spend your entire money on your rent, your groceries, your children, your electric bill, where you're just making it work.
Yeah. So you want to create opportunities for your children to really figure out what they want to do.
Right. Like that's the dream that all of us have.
Yeah.
It's the American dream.
Kids to figure out what they want. All right. And so here's like a good question. Where do all of you think you stand as far as like reaching your goals? Do you think you're at the very beginning, the starting line? Do you think you're halfway there? Do you think you're 75%? Where do you think you stand as far as obtaining your big goals?
Ground zero.
Ground zero.
I feel your pain.
Ground zero. It's like in Kung Fu Panda where there's a level 0.
Yes.
What'd you say, Lawrence?
I was gonna say, man, Shelly, if you at ground zero, I'm under the zero. What are you doing?
So we're gonna say starting line for Lawrence as well then, right?
Yes.
And Chrissy, how close are you? Where do you feel like you are?
So as far as residual, I'm about at the quarter mark. I'm about a quarter of the way there. As far as my income level goes, if I do not count the residual and I just wanted to keep hustling, I'm about at the halfway point.
Halfway for residual, and then
Quarter way for residual.
halfway for hustle.
Yep. I really wanted to triple down on my hustle. I could probably get there, but I just don't want to work that hard.
It takes a lot of work to make that money, man. I can't tell y'all, like, I be tired all the time. I'm like, oh my God. Don't get me wrong, I'm not making 300 a year, but I know how hard I work.
Dream of like if I could continue working as hard as I'm working right now and get my residual to make up the other half, I would probably be fine.
Yeah.
But the dream is bigger.
Yeah. No, and just to kind of like share some of my goals with you guys, like I kind of had the same mindset as Chrissy. Like I'm looking for to be at a point where I don't physically actively have to sell real estate, where either I have a team big enough that's handling my business and I could just make enough money off of the referral income alone to where I don't physically have to sell real estate, because I want to put my money and invest it in other areas like residual income with investment properties, like the stock market, like long-term retirement planning. And I want to be able to have my money making me money so that I can do more with my time, because you are capable of much more than what we give ourselves credit for. And once you start achieving some of these goals, you're going to realize that. And that's why your goals will forever be changing, because you're going to realize you're capable of a lot more than what you realize. Does that make sense? I don't think I could say realize enough. I think I said it like 6 times in one sentence. So now that we have like our bigger goals, we have to start working backwards and breaking it down. So, Shelly, when do you want to hit? Obviously, we want to hit it down, right? So let's not say that answer. How much time do you think you need to hit this goal of making 125 a year?
You mean like how much time do I need to actually make
like
that much?
do you want to hit 125 before the end of this year, or do you want to do it in 2 years, 3 years? How long do you think it's going to be to hit this goal for 125? When do you want to hit it?
I would like to hit it this year, but being realistic, I would probably say it would take 2 years.
Okay, so we'll put 2 years on you so we can be
Yeah.
realistic, right? Because we got to work backwards. So
Yeah.
this is your 2-year goal. Lawrence?
Yes, I'm here.
How many, when you hit 200,000, is this like a 1-year goal, 2-year goal? When do you think you want to hit this?
I would say
You
it's probably.
you want your wife to stop working ASAP, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. That's the goal, is to make enough where we're comfortable, where she doesn't have to worry about working at all. I would say, what is it, March now? I would say my goal to hit this is by next March.
So this is a 1-year goal for you. Okay. And Chrissy, what about you?
That's
Just since I've been in this business a little bit longer, and when it comes to getting residual income, those things do take time.
Those
So
do take a lot more time.
it takes a lot more time to create residual income than necessarily the hustle. And of course, when you start devoting your time to residual income, you start losing some of your hustle.
Yes.
So I'm going to give myself probably about 3 years realistically.
3 years for you. Okay.
Yep.
And honestly, guys, I know like hearing everybody else's goals and stuff like that, we don't need to compare ourselves to our neighbor, right? Because we know what's going to work in our lives. We know what we want to get out of our lives. So you don't ever have to feel any kind of way. You don't have to feel like you're shooting for the start, like shooting too big or shooting too small, or not being comfortable with your timeline. Honestly, you can work towards it. And even if you get 75% of the way after your timeline is done, you're not going to feel bad. You're still going to feel great. You're going to be like, oh, I'm almost there. Like, I cannot imagine Lawrence in March of 2023 feeling like, oh, I didn't really hit my goals because he made 150 versus making 200. Are you going to be complaining, Lawrence? I don't think so.
No, I won't complain. Just being honest, I'll probably be harder on myself, but I won't complain at all. My wife won't complain either, so we'll be good.
Yeah, like we set the goals because we know that they're achievable, but even if we get ourselves almost there, we're still succeeding. So you hit 150 in March and then you hit 175 in August. Like, is it really like a loss there? Like, you're still getting there. So by the end of 2023, you hit your 200,000 and you didn't even realize it. So
Gotcha.
but All right.
It
So
happens to the best of us. We don't realize what we're doing until it's too late. If you really dedicate yourself to this grind of contacting people day in and day out, I did it to myself last year. I didn't even set the goal that I ended up with. I was about at the halfway point, and I just like blew it out of the water on the back half of the year because I put my mind to it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. We're actually going to talk about a book that I've been reading lately, and it's called the 12-Week Year. I don't know if any of y'all have picked this book up, but it's an easy read, and I definitely find value in the book. In my personal opinion, it reminds me a lot of the MREA book. However, it condenses your mindset to focus on the next 3 months versus so focused on the year, right? So New Year's rolls around, we all have our New Year's resolution. We're like, we're going to do this, this, and this, this, and this. And then everybody by February or March fell out of whatever routine they were burning hard for. And the picture is just too big. So we're going to learn how to reduce it down and make a good focus point so that one, we can keep better track of what we're doing and what it is putting out. And two, we can reassess and realign at least quarterly to make sure that we are hitting our bigger goals. So I thoroughly enjoy the book, and I'm definitely going to be discussing how we can implement that into our career path so that we can all be focused and constantly hold ourselves accountable and refocus to keep moving forward. So, because I always like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and I push hard for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then I fall off. Like, that's not fair to me, and that's not fair to the goals that I've set, like the promises I've made my kids or made myself, So we want to do more with what we have, and I think that's a big deal. I don't know how you guys feel, but y'all are in my class, so y'all must like it too.
We like it.
Definitely.
Yeah, God. It's so funny that I have to wait for you guys to unmute to laugh at my jokes. So it's like that pause of hesitation, like, are they gonna laugh? Oh. So let's focus on Shelly's first. So 125, we want to try to be making that within the next 2 years, right? So that means 2022, we need to make at least what, like 75% of that? Would you say that that's realistic, Shelly?
I would say that's realistic.
So 125, and we're going to do 75% of that. So we need to get you making at 94,000 for the year of 2022 because
I have a
it's just-
question
Yep.
about Shelly's goal. Shelly, did your goal include your current income to make that 125 to step away from your other income?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I was
Okay.
that was a
Like,
weird
as
one.
Good question.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
basically
So it's the combined income of real estate and your current.
correction. No,
Okay.
that is specific to real estate
Okay,
because I will still have this income for that year. So this pays my bills currently, right? So
Mhm.
anything additional that I make is what I'm able to put up or reinvest, right?
Yeah.
So that will be, now I have a nest egg. Now I have a cushion to where if I do have an off month in real estate, I'm still not drowned in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I didn't mean
So-
to interrupt you, Shelly. I wanted to
You're
understand
fine.
the whole picture.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
that's
and I think that's a good question because, we have to learn when and where we can step away. So when dissecting that a bit more, right? So to walk away, you said that from your current job, you need to make at least half of the 125. So we're looking at 62.5. So we'll just say 63,000. And then for the year, we need to make 93,750. So we're in March. So we're going to take 9 months to make 93,000, right? That means we're going to need to make at least 10 grand a month, or 10.5, because it says 10, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So how many deals does that actually translate to? So 10, if you sell a $200,000 house and you haven't capped, that's a 6 grand commission, right? And then you're gonna walk away. Are you guys on 70%? Is that what your takeaway is?
Yes.
I'm
Shelley, you're special.
okay.
All right, so 70%, just for easy math purposes, is
Yeah.
4,200. So in order, and that's at a $200,000 price tag. So if it's a little bit cheaper, a little bit more expensive, it's a little more money or a little less money, right? So let's just say easy math, 4,200. That's going to put you at 2.5 deals per. Hold on, I got.
Yes. 2.5 deals per month.
I think I got a ghost in my house. Oh no, it's a damn cat. my ring light started moving, so I expected to look down and see a cat, and there was nothing there. So I'm like, how is this moving by itself? And so I freaked out because I don't believe in ghosts. I've never experienced them personally, so I don't have any reason to believe in them. But like my light moved on its own, like completely. And then I just saw its paw like creep out. So I'm like, all right. Woo. All right. Don't mind me. All right. So 4,200 or 2.5 houses, basically. But let's just say that you close 2 houses a month at 4,200. That's going to put you at 8,400. So in order to get you to the $63,000 threshold, which is where you can do real estate full time, we're going to take the 63 and divide it by 8,400. So 7.5 months, you should be able to have made enough money to say, fuck this job, I'm leaving. So at
Literally, if I was still cursing, that would be exactly how I would say it. I'm trying to live my life right.
All right, so we'll find a very something your pastor will be proud of.
I'm out of here.
Goodbye.
I'm gonna just say I'm out of here.
Like, it's been good. I appreciate the opportunity, and I respectfully decline to return to work.
There we go.
So 7.5 months, we're technically like, the beginning of March right now. So we didn't even count March, just counted 9 months, but let's go ahead and count half of March. So then 7 months from now, April, May, June, July, August, September, October is going to be where you should hit that mark. So at 63,000, and we're going to take that away from the 93, which that's easy math. That's 30,000, 93,000 minus 63,000. And now we got 30,000 that we want to make in November and December. So that's literally 15 grand per month. And if we were to break that down to the $4,200 threshold, you're literally just selling 4 more houses.
It sounds so simple.
Because it is.
It sounds great.
Because it is. Like,
yeah. We have too many opportunities not to be taken advantage of for that not to be an attainable goal. I crushed December on accident.
Yeah.
So it genuinely is that simple. And I think what a lot of us do when we're talking ourselves out of it is we're not taking the time to actually break it down. So if we take the time to actually break it down, we can see that our goals are very much achievable, and we can start crushing them and really start testing our abilities at this point. So from this point forward, our goal is to get Shelley closing 2 deals a month, so that at the end of October, she will have reached that point where she can leave behind her main source of income and put all of her priority into real estate, instead of splitting the 2 jobs and trying to act like we're giving 100% at both. Like, I know your current job, like, you can kind of coast a little because it's muscle memory at that point, but
I have a question.
Ask away.
About breaking this down into smaller increments. So on average, how do you spend with a client before they get that contract?
Are we asking me or are we asking Shelley?
We're asking in general because we have, Shelley here and we have Lawrence here who's not done his first one yet.
Well, more importantly, like how many, like, because right now we know what our goal is. We need 2
Yeah.
contracts to close each month, right? So how do we get to 2 contracts? So before we start asking how much time we're spending with each person, let's find out how we get those people that we are getting into contract. How many people per day realistically do we need to talk to get those appointments, and how many appointments per week to turn them into 2 closings a month? Like
Right.
that's where it gets complicated. And in some people's eyes, that's where it gets hard.
Yes.
Does that make sense so far? So realistically speaking, Shelley, you've been doing this for 2 years. Have we hit our 2-year mark yet?
Yeah, it's just hit 2 years, January 31st.
Okay. So of the deals that you've closed, how many people would you say that you've talked to realistically to get there?
In terms of the amount of time that I spoke with them?
Not in times that you spoke with those individuals, but so let's say, all right, let's say that you closed a deal 1 month, right? How many
Mhm.
people did you talk to before you came across the person who wanted to buy with you and you closed them? Realistically, not just in general. Don't say you talk to hundreds of people a day and you mentioned real estate. I mean,
Heck,
physically
no,
actively
I
talk
would
to them.
not do, no, okay.
Yeah.
So I would say, well, the reason why this question is hard and I would just be throwing a number out there is because
Yeah.
I don't talk to a lot of people a day. So like the
And that's
two,
what we
my
have to
first,
change, right?
yeah, my first 2 that actually went to completion were from my sphere of influence. So
Yeah.
those are people who either my family knew or I knew. The other 2 were leads that ended up falling through at the closing date. So I don't know how I
Yeah.
would answer this.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask this question, because a lot of times people don't realize what really goes into getting these people to commit to working with you and taking them out and showing them houses, right? The hardest part about our job, in my personal opinion, is prospecting, because you are selling yourself and your knowledge and your know-how to strangers ultimately. Like, yes, you have your sphere of influence and that can get you so far, but at a point you're going to hit a roadblock because you're out of people, right? You can keep recirculating them, and then every 3 to 5 years they might be buying or selling again, but in reality, you can't wait 3 to 5 years to make money again. So what I wanted Lawrence to understand, as well as yourself, is understanding that these people that you have helped, you didn't necessarily have to prospect for, because they were your sphere of influence. So we have to reach a point where we decide, how do I actively prospect, and how many people do I have to actively prospect to hit those goals, to get those two deals, those 2 closings, because it's more than just a lead, because you got to work many leads to get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
And there's math, right? Because they have the national average on what people do. And let me see. Blah, 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 blah. I'm looking for my math because I know it's in here. So if you guys have your MREA book in front of you, you can actually turn to page 137, and it has the strategic model for generating leads and building relationships, right? This looks like a bullseye, and the one-on-one in the very center is literally somebody that you have sat down with, you converted them, and now you are actively helping them buy or sell real estate. But if you look outside of that, you have your very outer limit is the people that you haven't talked to, the people that you don't know. So once you start talking to them, you start moving them towards the center, because everybody that you meet or that you make a phone call to may not be actively looking to buy or sell real estate yet. It's never a no, it's just a not right now. So you got to move them along. And yes, there are going to be people that are wasting your time or not worth your time, but you have to decide, can they be nurtured? Can they really want this for themselves later? Because I've talked to people who I thought were completely serious. They asked all the right questions and everything, and then it never turned into anything. And then I've talked to people who I didn't think cared about real estate whatsoever, and then I totally sold them a house. So you won't know until you start communicating with them in some kind of way. And then as you move that in, you physically met them, you told them about the home buyer process, or you told them about listing the property, but you're still not really there. So when you meet somebody that wants to sell their house, they're at the very beginning, they're still doing research. So you're only giving them small tidbits. You're letting them know that you know about the market, you know about the area, and you know what it takes to sell the house, but it's not an actual listing appointment. So the circle still continues to get smaller because they're not right there at the bullseye where they're going to be your client. You still have to nurture them. But if you look at this chart, so you have your initial conversation and possibly a face-to-face meeting, right? So that might be luck of the draw. It might be with purpose. You might be at a networking event. You might be making active phone calls. That's up to you on how you're going to prospect. But then as you're nurturing them, you've got 12 direct attempts to try to reach out to them. And if you reach out to them, great, you get to push them faster to that bullseye. But let's say that they don't necessarily respond to your 12 direct attempts of a call or a text message or a face-to-face meeting. Then you have your 8x8 or your 33 touch scenario. So this could be an email campaign, or a postcard, or whatever kind of implementation that you want to put in place to cover the basis of, like, staying relevant, staying in their face, letting them know you're still here, because maybe they're not ready to buy or sell right now, but at least when they are ready to buy or sell, you'll be at the top of their mind. Or if they come across somebody who does need to buy or sell, and they're like, you know what, I know a good agent, I see her crap on Facebook all the time, here's her number, like, give her a call. When you realize like how much effort you have to put into nurturing your sphere, that's where the work comes in. Like, you have to touch your database. There's no getting around it. None of us can really say we like making phone calls. I know that there's people that say that they do. I'm pretty sure they do drugs. They don't like making phone calls. Who likes making phone calls?
I do.
I like calling people that I already know and like talking to me. I don't like calling new people. But you know what? I still do it because I need the money. I need to make my goals. So if you are making calls, if you've ever made calls before, then you kind of already have a feel for how crazy it can get. If you've never made calls before, you definitely should, because you need to see what it looks like. Nikita is really great on the phone. So if you ever want to hear somebody who does a good job, you can actually ear hustle her anytime. She makes calls on a regular basis, like every day, just about. And she has no problem with anybody being with her while she does it. But let's say that you need to set 2 appointments a day in order for you to hit your goal of closing 2 deals a month. So if you're making 2 appointments a day so that you can close 2 deals a month, and you're making calls 5 days a week, so that's 10 appointments a week so that you can close 2 deals a month. Like, my math's going to be a little off, guys, because if you're making 10 appointments a week, let's say like 2 people don't show up, that means 8 people you actually met in person, but you're only converting 2 of them. Let's say you're converting 4 of them. So that's a 50% conversion rate, but 2 of them don't, like, the deal falls through, financing's not right, they choose not to sell or whatever. So you could make the math make sense at the same time, but in reality, if you're sitting at 10 appointments a week where 8 of them show up, your conversion rate should be more like 75%, 65 to 75%. So, 6 to 7 of those actually turn into actual clients. And then let's say 20% of them fall off. So you should actually be closing about 4 to 5 deals if you go off of statistics.
Yeah,
And
if
I'm
you can
just-
actually get face to face with those people. If you can
I
get face to face with someone, you're done.
if you put me in front of somebody, they're gonna want to work with me. That's just
Yep.
That's the confidence that I carry, and that's just everything that I've done has represented that. So like if I get to in front and face to face with them, it's a done deal, and it's going to be a done deal for you guys as well. So don't ever feel like I got something that I'm offering that you guys can't do. Like that's not even true.
That's the hardest obstacle, is like making these phone calls, getting hung up on, people not wanting to do the thing. But if you can get them in a face-to-face situation, you can close them.
All right, so we're making calls, right? So we need to set 2 appointments that day. How many people do we need to actually physically talk to in order to close those 2 appointments? Anybody have any guesses on how many people you would need to get physically on the phone and talk to them to get them to commit to appointments? How many tries?
10.
10 phone calls? 10 actual conversation phone calls?
10 actual conversations, not phone calls that I left a message.
Yeah. 10 actual phone calls. Shelly, Lawrence, either one of you want to take a stab?
I would say
Mm-mm.
somewhere between 10 and 15.
And Shelly's like, no, I don't want to try.
Mm-mm. I'm gonna listen and learn.
So let's say, okay, let's say 15, right? 10 is a good number, but let's say 15. Let's just say we're just getting started. I got to get hung up on at least 13 times before I actually seal the deal and get the 2 appointments, right? So if we need to speak with 15 people, how many numbers are we calling? How long does it take to get 15 people on the phone per day?
Isn't it like
I would
100
say-
calls or something?
Say that again, Shelley?
Isn't it like 100 calls or something like that? Like physical calls?
Yes, a little bit
Yeah.
higher.
Okay.
It's anywhere between 130 and 180 calls.
I would say close to 200.
Wowzers.
And because you got to think about your time of day that you're calling. You got
Mm-hmm.
to think about all the wrong numbers that you've been given, and you got to think about who you're calling and why, right? We call it cold calling. However, it's more of a warm call because most of the numbers that we call have expressed some kind of interest in either buying or selling real estate. So it's kind of warm, but at the same time, they may not necessarily be expecting your call or your sales pitch. So it's like, how do we blow through these numbers so that we can talk to these 15 people so that we can schedule our 2 appointments? And honestly, if you get your 2 appointments right out the gate, there's nothing to say that you have to stop right there. You can keep going and set more than 2 appointments. Or you could stop and say, you know what, I got my 2 appointments. My goal is done. High five myself and keep it moving. But if you've ever attended one of Bill Crespo's coaching classes, he tells you to call 5 to 6 days a week, 3 hours a day, every single one of those days. He says you should be making at least 200 calls. But Bill is coaching on a level to where you are making a massive amount of money. So if that's what you want to do, that's where your goals need to be. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yep.
Sounds like burnout, but it does sound.
How do we keep ourselves from burning out though?
Yeah,
This
that's
is
the
why
part.
we don't reach our goals, is because we get
Yeah.
burned out and then we just stop. So how do we keep ourselves from burning out?
We reinvest our money in things like call tent,
It's always nice to have somebody make the calls for you.
right?
It's expensive. Look, I have been shopping around
expensive.
for I've been shopping around for an ISA recently. When I tell you it's expensive, it's expensive.
It
Like
is ridiculous.
the cheapest one I have found has been $1,500 a month.
I got one for 11.
See, like it's expensive, guys.
Yeah.
And you also have to make sure when you are paying somebody else to make these calls for you, that you actually are generating enough business to pay for it. Because if you don't
Yep.
have 40 hours worth a week to give them, guess what? You're still paying them 40 hours worth a week. Like that's just the way that these programs are set up. I found one where you can split it with another agent, but for the most part, it's hard to find some of these part-time places. Like who wants to make calls part-time and make a little bit extra money? Sometimes that works out great for people, but most people need full-time work. So it hurts. So
What about college students? What are they doing? Why do they want to just make calls?
I bet they do, Shelly. I bet they do. Like, let's
Well,
We
find
need to
out.
find some.
Well,
Let's
here's the
find
other
out.
issue. Okay, so there's another issue so there's another issue here. So depending on what state you're in, there are different rules about what that company can say to them about real estate when trying to get you that lead.
Well, when you're having
So-
somebody make calls for you, they should not be discussing real estate itself at
Right.
all unless they're licensed. So for the most
Correct.
part, you are just trying to get them to want to know more and pick a more appropriate time to discuss. So if it is a phone call or a Zoom call or an in-person meeting, that person that's making these calls is like, yes, you click to learn more information about buying in this area or whatever. I have a top agent who is available to meet with you. Would you prefer virtual, phone call, or in-person meeting? And what day of the week works best for you, Thursday or Friday? Thursday, great. Do you want mornings or afternoons? Like they don't need to like divulge into anything else. Like they
You
want
just
their
have to be
questions answered.
careful about who you're hiring and make sure that that person knows the rules. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you
So
have
that's
to
why we don't
train
hire random
anybody.
college students.
What you just train them. You train these people. Like you have to put time into getting these people understand what your expectations are and what you're paying for. Like it is what it is. Like if you're not going to make the calls yourself, like you have to make sure you take the time out to train them to make the calls how you need them to make the calls, because it's your brand, it's your name.
Yep.
So we're making, let's say 100 calls a day, and we're doing it 3 days out of the week. So then that means we're getting our 2 appointments. So that's 6 appointments a week. Let's say we close 75% of those. So we're talking about 4.5 to 5 appointments. And then, let's say 1 or 2 of them doesn't quite qualify to buy, they're a little bit further out. So that still puts you right in line to hit your goals of closing more than 2 deals a month. Honestly, Shelly, more than 2 deals a month.
I know your brain works in numbers. Mine works in visuals. So can you say that again? That part where you were talking about the numbers. I have to write it down.
Yes. I like to write stuff down too, because it starts to make more sense when you start writing it down.
Yeah.
So let's say that you get burned out and we can't make calls every day because it takes effort to pump yourself up to make these calls. So let's say we make calls 3 days out of the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever days you want to pick. And you're making 200 calls a day on those days. So that's going to be 600 calls altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get your 2 appointments per day that you make calls. So that should be 6 appointments that you're setting per week. Get my calculator out, because I like calculating. All right, so you got 6 calls a week, and 75% is your conversion rate. So that's 4.5 people, right? And then let's say that 80% are actually qualified buyers or sellers. So let's say 80%, that gives you 3.6 people, right? So we're going to round up to 4 so that we could just be happy with our numbers, because technically it's a 0.6, so we get to round up. So we're gonna say 4 people a week that turn into actual buyers and sellers. So there's technically, what is it, 4.2 weeks per month. So if you times that by 4.2, that gives you 16.8. So we're gonna round up again, and we're gonna make that 17 people a month. And let's say that your close rate is, let's say your close rate is 60%. Let's give it a rough number. That's still 10 transactions a month. You're gonna need help.
That's amazing. Yeah. I
You're
need,
gonna,
there-
you're gonna
we
need
need
help.
some,
So
we need more
3
people.
3 days out of the week, you call 200 people so that you can so you can talk to 15, so that you can set 2 appointments, so that you can go to 6 appointments a week, so that you can close 10 deals a month.
Okay.
That means before summertime, you'll be leaving your job. Just saying.
Yeah.
If our numbers math out correctly.
If our numbers math out correctly, none of us will do anything except make phone calls all day.
I mean, there's a
should.
reason why Bill coaches on making phone calls. There's a reason for it. Because it is proven to be successful. Because it is a numbers game. You just keep calling until you get the right person, right? And you don't take it personally when they get mad at you. You don't take it personally when they hang up on you or cuss you out or tell you to never call them again or anything. They're the ones that clicked on it anyways. Like, sorry, you're the one trying to sell your house. Sorry, you're the one that wanted to learn more. I'm here to teach you. That's what I'm here for. So you don't take it personally. You just keep it moving until you hit your goals. Your goal is to talk to the person that wants to talk to you. The faster you can get off the phone with the people that don't want to talk to you, the better. Because then you get to move on. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to move on.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Because we've got goals. We want to make and hit our goals so that we can break this down. So let's talk about the 12-week year. All right. So how can we break our yearly goals down into a focus point of quarterly goals? So we know that Shelly needs to make 125 a year, and we're going to divide that by 4 so that we know our quarterly goal is to hit 31,250 a quarter. So we're going to divide that by 3. That's just shy of 10,500 a month. And if we do that for our 4,200, it's 2.5 deals, right? We did that math earlier. So now that we have broken those numbers down and we know what our goals are and we know how to get to those goals, because we talked about prospecting, now we need to break it down into a 12-week parameter period so that we know how to hit our goals, how to time block, and where to make our adjustments. Everybody talks about time. Time is very important. We can be the most organized person in the world, but still not be managing all the uses out of our time. So let's say that you want to make your calls Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, right? Because Saturday is going to be a good chance for you to get a hold of somebody if you can't get a hold of them during the week. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, do you want to make your calls morning, lunchtime, evening? Do you want to break it up throughout the day? Because if you are spending 3 hours a day prospecting, you could do an hour in the morning, an hour at lunch, an hour at evening. It's totally up to you on when you want to make these calls. Anybody have any? Do you want to just knock them out all together? Like, we're writing down goals. I hope everybody's taking notes. We're writing down goals.
Yeah, I got my notes.
You got your notes?
Go ahead, Lawrence, because I've been hogging it.
I would probably break it down just so I'm not getting overwhelmed. So I would probably break it up into lunch and evening hours. Like, was it like 100 at lunchtime and 100 in the evening? Because you catch them. You don't want to catch. You don't want to do. I don't think you want to do 200 at night, because then you'll be catching people during dinner time, and nobody wants to talk to you during dinner time.
Well, in that mindset, Lawrence, nobody's going to want to talk to you at all because you're always going to be making excuses for them, but you don't need to make excuses for them. Remember, we're trying to find the people that want to talk to you. So you just have to dig through everybody else. In reality, if they don't want to talk to anybody, then they shouldn't answer their phone. If I don't want to talk to anybody, I'll watch that bad boy ring. I'm like, all right. So they can do the same thing. They have that same privilege, just the same as you and I, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So don't feel that way. Don't feel like you're going to be bothering them. No, you are here to help them. It is up to them to decide whether or not they want your help.
I
Make
got you.
sense?
I got you. Yeah,
All
makes
right.
sense.
So you want to break it up 100 at lunchtime and 100 in the evening. So we're talking about an hour at lunch, maybe hour and a half to blow through those calls. And then an hour and a half in the evenings to blow through those calls, right? So when you break it up like that, you have to make sure that you're not going to allow your personal life to distract you, because what we're all guilty of, I know I definitely am, at nighttime, it makes it a little harder for me to get things done simply because I have kids, I have a house I have to take care of, I've got cats and dogs and all kinds of animals coming out my ear. And then it also seems to be the prime time that all my clients want to reach out to me that I'm actively working with. They're off work, so they want to talk to me. So you want to make sure that you pick a time slot that is not going to allow you to not be interrupted by everything else. So
Gotcha.
I get up in the mornings, I make my cats their breakfast because I can't allow the dogs out until the cats eat, because the cats will hide and then they won't eat all day. So I make my cats breakfast, and while they're eating, I'm making the dogs breakfast. So by the time the cats are done eating, I can put their food up so the dogs don't eat it. They can go run and hide. I can let my dogs out, feed my dogs, and let my dogs outside. That takes me 30 minutes, guys. 30 minutes of activity right there dedicated to just taking care of them. But if I get that done early enough, that allows me 30 minutes of time to enjoy a cup of coffee and read whatever book I'm reading, to allow me to mentally set myself up for a successful day. Anybody can read words of encouragement in the morning and really change your mindset for the day. And I encourage everybody to do that, because it fills you up and it puts your mind right at the very beginning. So I know once I take care of these dogs and the cats and I have my cup of coffee and I read, I know I have downtime before my phone starts going off. Chrissy, what time does your phone start going off in the morning for real estate stuff?
7:30.
7:30. That's a good time. That's about the time for me.
Yep.
So I know that I need
don't
to be-
return phone calls until 8 a.m. though,
Yeah.
unless it's some kind of emergency.
So that's what I want to talk about, is making sure that you guys set yourself up to focus on making the calls and not being distracted by everything else that's going on around you. So you got to figure out that time slot to where whatever happens around you can either wait or be done by somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I can promise you, in real estate, unless the house is on fire, nothing is 911 and can't wait an hour or two. Anything that has to do with an attorney or any kind of closing company's got to wait the entire weekend anyways, or the next business hours. Like, so why can we not allow ourselves that time too? Like, and I am wholeheartedly guilty of this. I will literally have an email just waiting for me, and I will be like, ugh, must look at email. You gotta reset, and you gotta allow yourself that time. So if this means that you need to check your emails before you start making your calls so that you can plan out your day first, then do that. But do not start responding to the emails until your allotted time. But if you need to mentally prepare yourself like I do, I will take a look at them and I'll make a notation saying, all right, respond to this person's email, so that I know I'm not going to forget it later. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So another big thing about making these phone calls is having your numbers prepared ahead of time. That does not mean you prep them in the morning to do them at lunchtime and then at dinner time. You need to actually prep them the night before. So Lawrence, when you finish your evening of making calls, you're going to write down all your notes from the calls that you made. You're going to make little notations on how you felt like you did. Like I handled this call really well. Please remember to use this line next time. Or I didn't handle this call really well. You're going to record your log, right? And then you're going to prepare your numbers for the next time that you're going to call. That way you always have your numbers ready to rock and roll, and you do not have anything to keep you from making those calls. Sounds easy enough, doesn't it?
Makes sense.
So what do you say when you get on the phone?
Hi, my name is Shelly. Do you want to buy a house or no? No, just kidding.
It will, you might have to make more than 200 calls, but you will eventually get there. Somebody's going to say yes eventually. So you're going to cater your conversation to where the lead came from.
Yeah.
If it's your personal sphere of influence and you're just trying to put your feelers out there, you're not going to do a sales call. You're going to call them and you're going to ask them how they're doing. You're going to ask them what's new with them. How are the kids? How are you liking your job? You're going to engage with them sincerely, because in those engagements, they always ask how you're doing as well. And then you get to talk about you for a bit, but you make the conversation 80% about them and only 20% about you, because that's going to build a lasting impression with them. And then when you're making the calls for listing appointments, you're calling people who have already shown interest in selling their house. So when you talk to them, you're going to be like, hey, I know that you were thinking about selling your house. I'd like to talk to you about what your home is worth. Do you have time coming up this weekend or whenever? You know, you want to try to build a rapport first. Obviously, you don't go for the kill right out the gate. But again, you make the conversation 80% about them and then 20% about you. And the same thing goes with buying. A lot of these buyers, they want to know more information because they don't know if they qualify or not, and it scares the shit out of them to be told no. So you just take an educational standpoint on it and you let them know, hey, I'm here to help you, whatever it is that you decide to do. If you decide buying right now is not the right thing for you, that's totally fine. But I want to make sure that you're educated enough in the process so that when you are ready, you know what to do. It closes them every single time. Any questions?
No.
Nope, this
Any
looks good.
lasting comments? We're pretty much like at the end of what I was going to go over today. So how is everybody feeling about their goals and how to break it down so that you can put it in more weekly terms versus the big year?
I think it's attainable. I think our goals are he would basically have to double his to get as far as the amount of appointments and things to get to that point within a year. So it's just a matter of scaling it to where you want to be and how quickly.
Yeah.
Well, for some of our newer agents, where would you suggest they get these numbers?
So it all depends, right? The listings, as far as like the FSBOs, expireds, withdrawns, you can pull FSBO's information for free from Zillow and Realtor.com, stuff like that, but it's going to take some work. That takes a lot of legwork to try to get all the information. But you can pay for those numbers as well. I believe My Plus Leads is like $30 a month, but maybe you don't want to invest that kind of money yet. So you really have to think about your prospecting and where you're going to get these contacts from. Like, and this is where being involved with your community is going to play a big role. You can do It is free to post on social media. So like you start looking at other agents and how they are creating posts, and you see, well, that's catchy. I would respond to that if I was looking. And then you start mimicking their ideas and really start putting yourself out there. If you go and get gas on a regular basis, like some of us do, because like we burn all that gas out, instead of paying at the pump, go inside, like go to the same gas station. I know I'm a creature of habit. I go to the same gas station every time I get gas. Start engaging with the people that work there. Some of those people are full-time in management and they can buy a house just the same as the next person. Some of those people
yeah.
are working there part-time and they're going to college and you don't even know it, but they're about to be a nurse practitioner soon, or you don't know until you start engaging with people. So you look for opportunities to start engaging with people until you're ready to start investing money. You can go door knocking. You can hold open houses. You can do postcards, but those like are a lot of money and don't have the biggest return. I'm not a fan of postcards, but
I've never been big on postcards. There is that one that Jordan did where it's only $50 for, I think, 500 postcards.
mhm.
So, and if you even get, I mean, for $50, if you even get one of those back, it paid for itself, tenfold.
Yeah. And I know Shelly, with her being very strong in her church, like her and I are organizing an event to inform the members of her congregation how they can all become homeowners, because not only does she feel strongly in it, but so does her pastor. So she has the support there. So where there is a will, there is a way. You just have to start identifying it, and there it's all out there. There's no reason why
On
you
and preach,
guys,
Holly. Where there is
yeah,
a will, there is a way.
where there's a will, there is a way. And you guys have the will. So let's start identifying the way. Let's start taking in. And if you guys have any ideas and you're not too sure if it's going to work or not, feel free to reach out. That's what we're here for. We're here to support and bounce ideas off of each other. But what I can tell you is you're not going to get any deals hanging out with a bunch of other real estate agents all the time. Like you have to go, it's good to come to the meetings, but you have to realize those meetings are for educational purposes only. That is not prospecting.
Nope.
Yeah.
Holly's not going to come buy a house from me.
Nope, not. I'm going to go buy my own house.
Holly's not going to refer her friends to me.
I might. It depends on
It
the deal.
depends on which kind of friend they are, because sometimes you just don't want to do business with those people. But
Yeah, it just depends. Like, you know a lot more about commercial and land. So like anytime I have a client that either we're going to tag team it or I'm going to refer it all the way to you. But like, it is good to build relationship with other agents. Just know that that's not prospecting. That's different. So
yeah, that's completely different. Prospecting is calling up everybody that you know in your phone book and asking them, do they have 3 people that you don't know that might buy or sell a house this year, and get those phone numbers.
Exactly. So here's my challenge for you guys. I want y'all to fully meditate on everything that we covered today. And then I want you to structure a weekly schedule for yourself. And I want to see your time blocks on where you're prospecting. If you are not making calls, I want to see your other opportunities for prospecting as well. So make a rough draft. It can be written in pencil, right? Just take time over the next couple of days, plan it out, and then email it to me and let's discuss it. Let's really sit down and make a plan and start holding ourselves accountable.
Sounds good.
This
All
is
right.
good.
Commitment
This
issues.
is good. Thank you.
All right. I love you guys, but I got other stuff to do today. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go.
Bye, Holly. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Shelly.
Hey, see you later.
Bye.
Wait, are you